Are you interested in surrogacy and wondering how to be a surrogate in the US? Well, you're in the right place because that's what we're talking about today. Hello, I'm Corlandos Scott, a fertility attorney in Los Angeles, and that simply means that my practice revolves around fertility. Helping people grow their families through assisted reproductive technologies. And in today's episode, we're going to talk about the requirements to become a surrogate. We'll look at how to approach becoming a surrogate, and we'll talk about how to be a surrogate. Now, if you're watching this as a potential surrogate, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Before we can start talking about surrogate requirements and qualifications and all that stuff, let's first ask a few simple questions. Questions like, do you even enjoy being pregnant? Have your previous pregnancies been relatively easy and non-problematic, or are your pregnancies difficult and riddled with complications? Have you given serious thought to the topic of abortion and reduction of a pregnancy? Are you clear on your position and convictions? And if you're clear, are you capable and comfortable communicating your convictions with others? Listen, if you want to be a surrogate, what things that you normally would have every right to do are you willing to forego in order to be a surrogate? What is that, bungee jumping, motorcycle riding, and all ice cream and french fry diet? I pose these questions prior to digging into the specifics of surrogacy in order to highlight the fact that diving into a surrogacy journey is not something to be taken lightly. There should be a considerable amount of thought and introspection taken prior to ever typing in the phrase, how to be a surrogate, into Google. Okay, rant's over. Now on to your regularly scheduled programming. So what exactly are the requirements for becoming a surrogate? What standards do you have to meet in order to become one? Well, let's start with the physical requirements. Now, thankfully enough, the American Society for Reproductive Medicine, ASRM, makes this relatively easy for us. They give us some general guidelines to follow for physical requirements. And the typical age of a successful surrogate candidate is anywhere between 21 to 40 years old, and maybe sometimes even a little bit older, depending on how healthy the candidate is. Also, at a minimum, you should have had at least one previous successful pregnancy and delivery. And that makes sense, right? To be a gestational carrier, you have to be able to prove you can carry. And in order to give yourself the best chance of passing the screening process and being matched, you should also be able to show that your previous pregnancies were without problems or complications. Now, you may be wondering, how many pregnancies are too many pregnancies? Is there a point where I have been pregnant too many times to be a surrogate? And that's a great question, because we know that pregnancy and childbirth puts a lot of strain on a woman's body. So it's only fair to ask if there's a point where the risks of complications are too high to justify permitting a surrogacy journey. And a general standard for number of pregnancies is a maximum of either 5 vaginal births or 3 cesarean births. Another one of the physical requirements is a healthy BMI, that's body mass index. And let me be clear, it's not that we're body shaming women or that candidates who weigh above a certain amount are bad people. No, the reason that BMI matters is because of the risks that pregnancy poses to women's health. So remember, we don't want to put surrogates at unnecessary risks. And BMI factors into the overall health of a pregnant woman. It factors into the potential risk for gestational diabetes and other things that could put the potential candidate at risk. So make sure you talk to the doctor about what a healthy BMI should be for you to undergo the surrogacy process. Now, another one of the things that we look at when we're talking about physical requirements is, oddly enough, no tattoos or body piercings in the recent past. I'd say within the last year to play it safe. And it may seem like a weird request, but the reason it matters is because it's possible to transfer diseases and infections through needles. So no need to put an intended parent through that, and really no intended parent is going to take the risk of having a potential infection that could jeopardize a pregnancy. So those are some of the major physical requirements, but there's also psychological and emotional requirements. Psychological and emotional requirements? Yeah. Your physical fitness is only part of the equation. Pregnancy not only taxes a woman physically, but there's an emotional and psychological burden that comes with pregnancy, and certainly one that comes with the surrogacy pregnancy. And to give yourself and the intended parents the best chance of success, you have to be up for the psychological and emotional challenge. Now, to that end, one of the things that a savvy intended parent is going to look for in a surrogate is a stable home life. Now, thankfully for intended parents in the US, it doesn't quite matter whether the surrogate is married or unmarried, but any smart intended parent is going to want to make sure that their surrogate has a stable home environment. And to go a step above stable, an excellent surrogate candidate is going to have some type of support system at home, whether that be support from a spouse or a partner or even a close family member. However, no intended parent is going to want to match with you, and no agency is going to want to work with you to set up with intended parents if your life is surrounded by drama or anything like that, because it only adds to the potential for complications both psychologically and emotionally. And it's an absolute no-go if you're dealing with a physically abusive situation at home. And listen to this, to know that you're in an abusive situation while actively engaging in a surrogacy journey may actually set you up to be liable for negligence, because you're doing this with knowledge that it could harm the process. So if you're in an abusive situation, please put looking for a surrogacy match on the back burner and seek help with the situation. Then when you've dealt with the abusive situation, you can pick the surrogacy journey back up. One of the other requirements is financial stability. And you may be thinking, I'm the one getting paid, so shouldn't it be the intended parents who need to be financially stable? Well, I understand that. And yes, the intended parents must show that they have the finances to fund a surrogacy journey, but the compensation a surrogate gets for the surrogacy journey shouldn't be her sole source of livelihood. Even if you're a stay-at-home mother, you can't depend solely on the compensation from the surrogacy arrangement to make your life possible. That's one of the things that the opponents of surrogacy argue. They say intended parents are taking advantage of these poor women who would otherwise not be able to live but for the monthly surrogacy allowance. And we know this isn't true, but we want to avoid all questions surrounding that. So if you want to be a surrogate, you can't depend on any kind of government assistance or any other kind of government aid, or solely on the surrogacy compensation to be your main way of maintaining your life. I'll tell you this, in fact, reputable surrogacy agencies will not even accept surrogates into their program if the potential surrogate is receiving government subsidized living in any capacity, like welfare or food stamps or any other form of government aid. Now, another consideration is living a healthy lifestyle. And when I say healthy lifestyle, yes, I do mean physically. You know, you eat right, you rest well, you exercise, you're in shape, you don't smoke, drink in excess, or do drugs. But it's more than just that. You should also be mentally healthy. You shouldn't be trying to start a surrogacy journey if you're dealing with issues like depression or anxiety. Now, these are things that can complicate life in general, but can completely derail a pregnancy. And even more so if it's a surrogacy pregnancy that's being watched under the strict terms of another person or couple and an agency and a lawyer and a reproductive endocrinologist and an obstetrician, all that stuff. Again, choose not to be a surrogate while you address the mental health issues that you need to address. And it's not a sign that you're a bad person. It's just a sign that you need to put down the surrogacy journey for now, get the help you need in order to get healthy, then you can pick it up again. And that gets me to the last main point around the psychological preparedness, which is just mental readiness. That's your emotions are in a place where you understand what's being required of you. You're mentally in a place where you understand what the process entails. You understand that you're carrying someone else's baby, and you understand that at the end of the day, you're doing a service out the kindness of your heart. Even though you may be getting compensated, but you're doing it for another person or another couple, and you're willing to do it on terms that you guys have both agreed on. Now, when you're at that point, then I think you're really ready. You have the psychological component down. And something to keep in mind is that your access to a mental health professional shouldn't end with the initial psychological evaluation. So make sure your agency and your intended parents agree to make a mental health professional available to you throughout the pregnancy. I mean, you never really know when you may encounter emotions or a situation that could benefit from the guidance of a mental health professional. Now, before I get to my last point, if you're watching this video and you're curious about the other steps in the process, especially how to choose the right surrogacy attorney, make sure you click the button below and subscribe to our channel and go back and watch the video on how to choose the right surrogacy attorney. Because if you're doing the process, you'll definitely need a surrogacy attorney on your side. So make sure you know how to choose the right one. Now, I'll end this episode by saying there's a difference between qualifying to be a surrogate and actually being a surrogate. Now, it's great that you can pass the screenings, right? It's great that you completed all of your evaluations. But after all of the screenings, after all of the evaluations are over, you still have to do the work. Now, the good news is that you made it through all of the preliminary processes, so all of the professionals believe in you. But when the process starts and you're actually pregnant, please keep in mind all the reasons that led you to do this in the first place. Stay as engaged and committed to the process as you were when you were trying to get matched. And I truly, truly believe that surrogates are angels, literally. You help people achieve something that otherwise would not be possible. For hopeful parents, you're the answer to many prayers and many tears even. So remember that and enjoy the ride. Now, if you need help sorting through the surrogacy process, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'd love to chat with you. And you can just click the link in the description below and you'll be taken to chatwithcorlandos.com. And from there, you can start a chat with me. I look forward to chatting with you.